Good morning, everybody. Hello, hello. We are back on a Tuesday, 11. So good to see you here. I see folks coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello. So good to see everybody. Hello, hello. Good morning, Vicky. Welcome. John, good morning. It is a beautiful day here. It is. This is truly Indian summer in the midst of November, where it is about 70 degrees and sunny. It is gorgeous. I was out walking Poco this morning, and it was just a gift to be out in the midst of the beauty of this day. The late morning sun, the sun lays in this time of year in a way it's no other. It doesn't look like anything else. It has a glow to it, a beauty to it. They talk about Florence being that way, that there's something about the light, that's why all the artists would always travel there. And I think this time of year in New England brings a little bit of that. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Irene. So glad you're here. I hope the garden is well and put to bed, and um, you are ready for the next stage. Good morning, Bob Guinan. Bob Guinan and I are going to be in the parade tomorrow, the Veterans Day Parade. Very exciting. So we're actually going to get a little First Congregational Church representation there. Word! It's going to be awesome. So the parade starts at 1 o'clock, and so we'll be parading through the city. So if you want to be a part, if you want to look for us, we'll be the good looking ones. Yes, we will, Bob Guinan. You and me. Good morning, Robin Carden. So, if there's a little commercial. If you are not following Robin on her Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11:45, they happen right after this. Like it's not a big. You're already at the computer. Man, come be a part of. She is just dishing out gold these days. She is on it. So and she is an encouragement to me, as every one of you are an encouragement to me in this time. So I encourage you. Uh, Look up Passing Time with Pastor Robin at 11:45 on Sutton's Bay channel on the Facebook Live. Uh, John, Jamie's out to say hi. She's beach time. Man, there is nothing that will heal a soul like Popham Beach. I'll tell you what, that is for sure. That place is all medicine. Morning, Sharon Landry. I'm so glad she's there, and we will hold her in our hearts and on this journey together for sure. So, good morning, everybody. So good to see you. We are, no thanks necessary. Thank you, Robin. You are a gift for sure. Um, Good morning, Rosalia. We've gone international, everybody. Rosalia is joining us from Italy. So how you found us, I don't know, but I'd be curious to know the story. But I'm so glad you're with us. Thank you for being here this morning, and yeah, you always have your cup of coffee, and so do I. So uh, it is the 10th day of November, this Tuesday at 11:11, and I am so glad each one of you are here because 537 years ago, a guy by the name of Martin Luther was born. This is Martin Luther's birthday. And so I think in our age, in our time, it's worth spending a little time with Luther and on Luther. We usually talk about him sometimes around Reformation Day, which is considered Halloween, October 31st. But I like talking about him on the birthday. So if you don't know, one of the reasons that we have this whole movement of Christianity outside of the Greek Orthodox, the Armenian Church, and Roman Catholic Church, which most of us know, those three kind of, maybe the Coptic Ethiopian Church, you could maybe include them, but I mean, maybe a few others around the edges. Other than these ancient churches, that this movement of Protestantism that we are a part of, that I'm a part of, that is this new way to come into relationship and with God that was formed. We owe great things to this guy Martin Luther. Like, in fact, we may owe everything to him for his obstinacy, for his curmudgeoniness, for his passion, for his scholarship, for his uprightness. Luther is a character of characters, and I love characters. It's there's a story of a friend of mine that was in I come from Maine. I'll forever be a Mainer at heart. That's kind of home for me, and I have long generations there. And somebody was on the tee in Boston once, and they were in front of a friend of mine that was telling the story, and they related to me. But the story was this. There was somebody from Tennessee visiting that was said that was touring Boston in the Boston area, and they loved and they had a great visit. Says, so how's it going? And so my friend was listening to these two people talk. He said, how's your visit been? He says, well, y'all got y'all got beautiful things here. The buildings are amazing. The everything's just so wonderful and so big. But what you don't see, what I hadn't seen yet is like we have in the South, which is y'all don't have any characters. And he says and it's the person they were talking with would just didn't understand. Says, what do you mean characters? I mean, you're looking for a play? Like what do you? No, y'all don't have any characters. Like we in the South, we pride ourselves on being characters. We have a certain way that we move through the world that's just ours and ours alone. He says, there's no. He says, well, and so the person thought for a minute, and they said, well, you need to go to Maine, and because for them in Boston, this is the home of characters was Maine, and and they relayed that to me as kind of as a jab, but I always took it as a wonderful and beautiful and large compliment, because I believe we are all born to be characters. That if the point of Jesus the Christ God coming into the world in the fullness of humanity, in the fullness of his humanness, to be who he could be and only he could be, to be Jesus and only Jesus, that means we're all in walking that path, we're called to be characters. We're not called to be another cookie cutter version of somebody from a certain place or a certain way. We're called to be our fearful and wonderfully made selves. We're called to be us and only us, and that means that has an impact on the world. That matters in the world. And I can think of all of Christian history, there is a handful of people who are characters more than Luther. And on his birthday, on his 537th birthday, I want to hold up this guy because he's a character. He's wildly imperfect. He loves fart jokes. Like if you can make a poop joke, he is your man. He spends half his life making poop jokes. Like he is a 12-year-old boy at heart, and yet he's one of the greatest theological minds that's going on out there. Like he's incredible. So, but what really happens with Luther is this, and what makes him a character is the fact that he comes out of a sense of his own conscience that he cannot and does not change. So the great story is this, and there's many with Luther, but this is what he is known for. If you don't know the story, but even if you do know it, I want you to hear it again, because I think Luther's character that brought into the world this new expression of Christianity, which we are a part of, which brought to it thinking and art and beauty and freedom and righteousness and justice, that was all being kind of capped up in an oppressive system. So Luther, he's a professor of German theology, and he's kind of teaching his classes, and he's looking around at the world as it is in about he realizes that the Roman Catholic Church is essentially extorting its members by doing what is called selling indulgences. Now, you have to understand a little bit about the worldview of the world in the 16th century. You see, there is heaven and there is hell, and in the midst there is purgatory. And purgatory is this place that you go to work off sins that you may have committed in this is very Catholic medieval theology, that you would go to the next life and you would have to work off penance or sins or wait around or be kind of trapped in this nowhere zone of existence that was called purgatory. Now, if you invested in the church in both prayer and contributions, you could then spring a loved one that had died out of purgatory and ostensibly into heaven. And there was a guy by the name of Tetzel, and Tetzel was he was the Ron Popeil of the Catholic Church. If you don't know who Ron Popeil is, it's worth the Google. That he could sell anything. He was one of the great salesmen of the in the European world, and he would tour all of Germany and Italy and France and selling indulgences for the church. Why were they selling indulgences? Because Pope Leo X wanted to build St. Peter's Basilica. So if you've ever been to St. Peter's and you see how absolutely gorgeous it is, you also have to remember that basilica, all of those stones, all of that work, all of that was brought together and funded on largely this sale of indulgences. This what I would call, and what Luther called in his time, essentially a taking advantage of the faith and the trust that the people had put in the church. Luther had a problem with that because he watched it play out. He watched people that had nothing take the very last of their nothing and give it to the church so that a loved one might be sprung from purgatory. In fact, this was Tetzel's whole marketing scheme, was that the phrase that rang throughout Europe was, every time a coin in the offering box rings, a soul from purgatory springs, or a soul into heaven springs. You'd hear it a couple different ways. But that was his little marketing scheme. Just like Ron Popeil was like, but wait, there's more. That was his what he was trying to use to separate the Catholic faithful from their money by selling indulgences. And so Luther had a problem with this. And Luther's problem got him into a lot of trouble. But his great declaration was the fact that he had 95 problems, and he wrote them all down, and he went to the local bulletin board, which was the church, the front of the Cathedral of Worms, and he nailed them up. And in that act got himself forever enshrined as a heretic of the church, going forward from that time. He broke loose in 1517 the world as it was known. The ironclad grip of the Roman Catholic Church over Western Christianity at that point began to break. Now, there had been many people, Huss and many others before that had tried to break it, but it was that moment that is enshrined in our history. And so he was brought up on charges for this. He was brought up, he was arrested, he was brought in front of the man. He had many people who were supporting him in the background, so they couldn't quite nail him up, though they tried. They couldn't quite kill him, though they tried. But there was a trial that came out, and he said in the trial, when asked about these 95 theses, these 95 problems he had with the Pope, with the 95 problems he had with the church, and the chief of which being this sale of indulgences. He says, "This is the way I understand it," and he said, "Here I stand. I can do no other." And this is one of the most famous lines that comes from Luther. "Here I stand. I can do no other." Friends, we're that what makes us characters in God's eyes, and what I believe we are called to be characters, I believe it's through our characterness that God's grace and God's love is going to affect the world. It's not by us trying to be more like Jesus. It's by us trying to be more like us and fully engaging all of the shortcomings of our life and all of the blessings and the gifts and stepping into that. Just as, and this, I think it's one of the greatest things that Luther gave us, is not just this theological idea that perhaps there was a problem with the sale of indulgences as an understanding of the post of the next life. It is that we might be as we are and say, "Here I stand. I can do no other. Here I stand for my faith. Here I stand for my friends. Here I stand for my family. Here I stand for that which is sacred to me in this world. Here I stand, and I can do no other." The brilliance of what Luther offers us in his life is that every time he's invited to say, "Oh, we need to go after these people or those people," he balks at that. He balks at that. He doesn't say that we need to this other person needs to be fixed for all things to be right. It doesn't need to that this is wrong or that's wrong. Now he says plenty of things that are wrong. He says 95 things that are wrong. But he says that this is the way it ought to be. He says, this is how I understand it. This is the truth that God has given me to bring to the world. Friends, what is the gift that God has given you to bring into the world? What, as I stand here 537 years later, talking about some drunken, by our standards today, if we were to look at the amount of alcohol he consumed, we would say drunken German that liked poop jokes, and who's and when asked, what he does after he preaches the gospel, he says, Mr. Luther, Dr. Luther, what do you do after you preach the gospel? He says, "I go home and I drink beer and I let it do its work." This was Luther's understanding of the gospel, that the gospel was out there working on us. Friends, the gospel is out there working on you right now. There is a call in your heart. There is a place that you're being invited to stand for your faith, for your family, for your friends, for your world, for your understanding of how things are. Stand in it. Let God's love, let the Holy Spirit, let it blaze in you and with you and around you. And take courage that you stand in a long line. You stand with the characters of Luther. That you stand in the place that of the beauty of the world, which is not in its perfection or even in its elegance, but it is its bizarre uniqueness. That those are the things that bring us joy. Vicky, as a bartender, I've seen some characters. Yes, you have seen some characters, and it is my very best. It is my very greatest bet that it was the characters that you served over those times that brought you the most joy. Even if they were the most frustrating, even if they were the most bunch of yahoos, they were actually, as you look back on it, the ones that made the day worth being in. Amy, my characters are my people. Yes, I believe if you are a person of faith, characters are your people. Who does Jesus hang out with? The sinners. Why? Because they were people doing interesting things. I mean, I really mean that. They were not concerned with all the rules. They were not concerned. They were wildly flawed. They were the folks that because they were in life, they were able to be redeemed in life. Just to redeem the Catholic Church a little bit, I want to end today with that quote from Cardinal Newman, which is one of my very favorite quotes. Uh, and he said this. He says, "I am not afraid to die. He says, I'm afraid that one day I should look back and that in all my life I realize that I have never truly lived." I think the greatest gift that Luther brought to the world was that he truly lived, that he truly, in ethos and in love and in all kinds of ways, he truly lived his life as he was called to do it in a fearless way, and in that transformed and changed the world because of what he understood and the way he understood it, and the gift that even 537 years later we are still redeeming and gaining the gift of his little stand of saying, "Here I stand, I can do no other." Where do you stand? And what thing is your heart calling you to? What is it that as the Spirit blows across your being, calls you to do no other? Because that's where your life is. That's where your joy is. That's where everything that this whole journey, this whole trip is worth bringing and doing and being. All right, friends, that's my hope for you today. Tomorrow is Veterans Day, and so I'll have something special for you tomorrow. If you're journeying with us at 11:11. Also, just by way of commercial, we are doing a pilgrimage on this Sunday after church. We are going to Plymouth Plantation. We have a bunch of people already signed up, but if you would like to go, we need to know by the end of today. So if you think there's somebody out there that you might like to go, might like to be a part of our journey to Plymouth Plantation and to give a nod to our ancestors in faith and fellowship, then please call the office today and let us know. With that, I will see you tomorrow for another 11:11 on Veterans Day. Peace and grace, friends.